video, we are going to take a look at plugins. Plugins are one of the most appealing features for WordPress. You can manage all your plugins under the Plugins tab here on the left. And when you click on that, what you see first is the list of installed plugins on your website. Now, being installed and being active are two different things when it comes to a plugin. So you can have plugins that are installed but not active. For example, this plugin called SiteGround Security is installed but not active. That is indicated by being white and having an activate link that I can click. As you can see here, I'm getting a lot of messages that there are new versions of all of these plugins available. Good plugins are kept up to date by their developers. And so this is a good indication for me that these plugins are being actively maintained. And it's always a good idea to keep your plugins up to date. WordPress allows you to update most plugins directly from your dashboard like this. If I click Update Now, it will automatically update and download the newest version of the plugin. And I can see that there. It can show as updated, and it will not show the message any longer that there is an update available. Another way to update all of your plugins quickly is to go up to the dashboard and go to Updates. This will show you all of the updates you have available, and you can just select them all, update your plugins, and it will go through and update them all for you. There you go. And now when I go back to plugins, all those messages should be gone. Yep, good. Now we're all up to date. You can also enable auto updates on a lot of your plugins. In general, that's a good idea to do. Now and then a plugin version will come out that has some issues. Those issues are usually fixed right away by the developer, and a new version is released as soon as it's identified. But in general, having your plugins auto-update is a good idea. Now, let's talk about adding plugins. When you start a brand new WordPress website, there are no plugins typically added. Our host, SiteGround, did launch our WordPress website with some of their own plugins that add some extra features. When we imported the Kadence starter pack, we got this Give plugin, we got the Kadence blocks, the starter templates, and this Otter plugin. Now these have added those additional block editor components to our website, and these work hand in hand with the Kadence theme. So those are handy. But what if we want to add some more plugins? You simply go to the Add New, either the button up at the top or the sidebar option. When you click Add New, it opens up to a navigator where you can tap into the plugin directory from WordPress.org. And it explains it right here. Plugins extend and expand the functionality of WordPress. You may automatically install plugins from the WordPress plugin directory or upload a plugin zip format by clicking the button at the top of this page. So let's say we wanted to have more of a fancy gallery plugin. So we go to the search plugins and type gallery and hit enter. It's giving us the search results of all the gallery plugins available in the WordPress directory. Now again, to be listed in the WordPress directory, you need to undergo a review by a team. So you must adhere to certain standards for security, for code, for compatibility. So generally speaking, plugins that are found in this directory are trustworthy. That doesn't mean that all of them will work well with your website, but there are a few things to look for that. And all of the things you want to look for are readily available here on this view. First of all, you can check out the reviews. Just like when you're shopping online, plugins have reviews, and many people who use them will give it a rating. So obviously, higher reviews and a lot of reviews are a good indication that this is a good working plugin. You can also look at how many active installations this plugin has. So in this case, this plugin is installed on more than 600,000 WordPress websites. You can look at when it was last updated. This was last updated 3 weeks ago, so that's a good indication that this is being kept up to date. And then this is showing that it is compatible with the version of WordPress that we are using right now. Let's go ahead and skip to the end of this list and compare some of these top plugins with some other plugins. Let's go to the last on the list. Okay, so this next gen gallery voting. Actually, let's look at the Flickr set slideshows. So this plugin says the quick and easy way to embed native Flickr slideshows of your Flickr photo sets in your post and pages. Here we can see it has 6 reviews that average 3 out of 5, so it's kind of so-so. There are only 600 active sites that are using this plugin, and it was last updated 9 years ago, and it is untested with your version of WordPress. So there's a lot of red flags here, not necessarily the low amount of uses, as some plugins are very niche, very obscure, and not a lot of people need to use them. But in this case, the biggest red flag is that this plugin has not been updated in 9 years. And there have been some monumental changes in the WordPress software in the past 9 years. And in fact, I'm not even sure Flickr is even around anymore. So just because it exists on here doesn't mean you should just go ahead and install it. Those are just some things you can look at. So let's go back to the front of the list and go back to the WordPress Gallery plugin. If we want to learn a little more, we can click More Details, and it will have a little pop-up here where we can look through a lot more details. We can read some reviews. We can see screenshots of how the interface works, how the settings look. There's an FAQ. There's a description, and you can look at what it does and what features it has. And a lot of those data points we looked at earlier are displayed here in more detail on the sidebar. And if we like what we see, we can go ahead and click Install Now. What it will do is copy the files over to our website. And if we are confident we want to go ahead and activate it, we can do that from here. Or let me go over to our installed plugins. Here we can see the Next Gen Gallery has been added to our website. We can go ahead and activate it now. Now, when you activate a plugin, not all plugins necessarily take you to a setup or settings page. In this case, it did. And here we can see the Next Gen Gallery has its own sidebar panel option here, as this is a pretty feature-rich plugin that has a lot of different settings we can access. So right now it takes us to a little welcome message with a video so we can learn how to use it. You can click on these different tabs here, and you can go from there. Now let's say you test this out and it's not quite what you're looking for. You can go back to your plugins. You can deactivate it, and then you can delete it. Okay, so let's try something else out. Let's say you need to add a bit of code to your website. Let's say you need to use something specific, and that specific thing requires that you add a little script to your website. Sounds a little scary, I know. There's a plugin called Code Snippets that you can use. Over 700,000 active installations, updated 4 weeks ago. Highly rated, looks pretty good. So let's install it. Let's activate it. And now it just kicks us right back to the plugin page. So this plugin has its own sidebar area as well. But let's say you added this plugin and you're not sure where to go to make changes. Sometimes there will be a settings link right underneath. So let's click on that. It will take us to the settings here. And now we can sort of see what to do. Let's go ahead and just deactivate, delete. And so that's how you can add and work with plugins on your website. And again, there are all types of plugins. Let's just take a glance at a couple of the popular ones. There's a contact form plugin. Here's an SEO plugin that adds different tools to your website to help you improve your SEO or search engine optimization. Elementor is a very popular visual web builder, and this replaces the block editor with a different type of editor. We have WooCommerce, which can add an entire online store to your website. Here's a more contact form. There's a caching plugin, which is intended to increase the speed of your website's load time. There's Updraft Plus, which is a backup plugin. Here's a Google Sitekit that helps you tap into Google Analytics, Search Console, AdSense, and has kind of like a one-stop shop for some Google services. We have MailChimp for WordPress, and MailChimp is an email marketing service. So as you can see, there are all types of plugins for all types of purposes. Smush helps you optimize your images. So there's plugins for back-end stuff, for front-end stuff, for design, for functionality, for speed, performance, search engine optimization. So all different types of plugins can be added to your website. And the temptation is to add, and never take any away. Every time you add a plugin to your website, you're adding a bit of code. And all of these so far are working together quite nicely. Most plugins that are highly rated and activated on many websites are very well coded, and they work well with other plugins. But as you can see, with so many plugins, many tens of thousands of plugins that are out there, it is impossible for a developer to make a plugin that works perfectly with every other plugin that's out there. It's just not possible to know. But most developers know the best practices for coding to work with WordPress, and you will find most plugins work well together. But I do caution you to use only the plugins that you need, and if you end up disabling plugins that you don't need, to delete them from your site so that you don't clutter up your website with a lot of unneeded plugins. It's also good to use only one plugin of a certain function. So it's not a good idea, for example, to have more than one or two gallery plugins installed, as they are built to interact with the same areas of code in your website. They can conflict with each other if you're not careful. And so those are just some rules of thumb when it comes to plugins. And plugins can also be downloaded from outside websites. And in that case, you click Add New and upload a plugin. You can choose the zip file from your computer that you downloaded from a different website and install it that way. Plugins are both free and premium, so you might be paying for a plugin, or you might have a free version of a plugin that has some basic features, but that also has a premium version that when you pay for the upgrade or a subscription, you get a lot more features or better support, or the full version. So that's something to watch out for as well. So that is plugins.